Reaciton.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Get on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
There is absolutely no human being on the planet I'd rather be talking to more than Brady Farkas. So thanks, man. Look at you. Good to see your smiling face. How you doing?
It's good to be here, Bradford. I was going to steal that line from you and say there's no one else I'd rather be talking to than you, but you beat me to it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, I get all kinds of reactions. Usually, I always get a smile. That's like 99.9%. But sometimes I get the really? What, really? And then a couple of people have countered with that, which tried to throw me off my game, saying, no. There's nobody I'd rather talk. No, it doesn't work.
I almost countered with, I guess Jerry wasn't available, so you had to come to me, but I decided to go just try to mimic you.
Well, listen, Jerry was not available.
Fair enough.
Jerry DePoto was not available. But I didn't even ask because I just wanted to go. I want to get your perspective. The Refuse to Lose podcast is obviously, like I said, you're the voice of the Mariners. I feel like there's a lot of great voices in the Mariners. I should say this. A lot of great people. And this is one of the great things, Brady, about the postseason is that, the people who are immersed in these teams are able to sort of surface themselves and make everyone understand how passionate they are, how talented they are. And it gives me the opportunity, I know it's a long soliloquy, whatever, but gives me the opportunity to actually help surface that. Like people like yourself, we've known each other a little bit and I know how talented you are. And now it's good to see your smiling face because the Mariners are in the middle of everything, right?
I appreciate that. The next time you call me, I might be 24 years older than this, so this might be the best I look at this.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so there's a lot to get to as we head into Game 3 of this series with the Mariners, and I just came from Philadelphia, and the Philadelphia crowd, Brady, I said I've gone on record multiple times saying I thought that was the best postseason crowd there is, just because I felt like they were trying to enact their will on every single pitch. Now, before I say that, I'm really anxious to get your perspective on Seattle. But before I say that, I was taken aback a little bit because I'm roaming the crowd in Citizens Bank Park, and they're doing their thing. But then when things turned, it turned the other way pretty quick. Now, you tell me, should I be screaming and yelling about this exact same title for the Seattle fans instead of the Philadelphia fans?
No, I think Mariners fans are well tested and they are battle tested, and Mariners fans have been through a lot. I mean, it has been 24 years until Sunday that the Mariners had won a playoff game, and Mariners fans have seen a lot of bad things in those 24 years. They have seen wasted seasons, lost seasons, near miss seasons, break the drought, but then get swept in the division series by the Astros after a nice win against the Blue Jays. I should have said it was first home playoff win in 24 years for the Mariners. But look, the fans are tested, and I want to give the fans a lot of credit actually, because Saturday's loss, Game 1, was a huge gut punch. It's a game in which you had the lead, you then came back and tied the game at 2-2. You had a chance to open that game up, right? You had first and second, nobody out in the 6th, and you end up not scoring to add on. And then you lose the game late in the 11th. That was a gut punch. That was everything that can go wrong, will go wrong. That was everything we've seen for 24 years resurfacing. And then when Scooble's pitching in Game 2, and you've exhausted the bullpen yourself in Game 1, I'll be honest, I walked into Game 2 feeling very despondent. And then the Seahawks lose right before the game starts, right next door. And then those fans come over and they're upset. And it just felt like there was this, oh God, this day that could have been so great is about to be so horrible. But the fans that were there, 47,000 of them, they didn't have that attitude. And you Dan Wilson's hallmark of this team is how resilient they are. The fans were resilient as well. They were all in from the first pitch in game 2, and I think they have something to do with the victory and keeping the energy in the building high, because I think on the outside it was easy to see how the energy could have been low after what happened on Saturday.
Yeah, well put. And so I'm a lot piggybacking off of that. I'm anxious to get your perspective once game 2 started. So I think they have every right to be a little bit nervous, right? Like there's a lot of nervous. There's a lot of nervous teams, a lot of nervous fan bases. It's funny, Brady, because talking to Chris Bassett the other day, it was right before the end of the regular season, and he said, "Listen, it is what it is, man. Like if you don't win in the first couple rounds, you're not looking back at like what a great season it is. It just is what it is, and that's why fans are nervous when it seems like it might be going the other way. But as that game 2 transpired, when did you feel like they sort of had flipped the switch to, all right, we're hanging with Scooball. We might be okay here. We're a resilient team, as you said, Dan Wilson. When did you feel like that was a thing? Like, how far into that game?
Bottom of the 3rd inning.
Oh, all right. Good one.
And the reason being is because, look, Luis Castillo had a dreadful August, like an ERA over 10 in August. And he pitched better in September, but we all know the competition they faced in September was not as good, right? Angels, Cardinals, Rockies. So you go through the first 2 innings, you're kind of hoping that the good Castillo is there. And then he throws 51 pitches through 2 innings, and there's traffic all over the place. And he's got 3 walks through 2 innings, and you're just kind of waiting for the dam to break. But then when he gets through the 2, and then he comes back with an 8-pitch 3rd inning, you're like, okay, well, now he's navigated the lineup once. He's made an adjustment potentially to be more efficient. He's gotten the pitch count back to a respectable level. So now we're not talking about the bullpen, a short bullpen having to get going in the 3rd inning or the 4th. So you're thinking, okay, if he can will his way through 5, then the bullpen sets up okay. And he got through 4 2/3 and 4 2/3 scoreless, and he only gave up the 1 hit, and then they go to Spire, and the bullpen's able to navigate it. But once he gets through the 3rd on only 8 pitches, I think that's when you started to think, okay, if they can scratch something out against Scooball, they might be in good enough shape.
Yeah, and like you said, once you get Scooball out, the only thing you're concerned, I think, once you get Scooball out is like you talk about with a bullpen, and this is just these teams' lot in life. You have these bullpens which are going to be like running on fumes, but you hope to not have your season hang in the balance with your bullpen running on fumes. But they held up, man. Like they held up. Like, and I don't know, like when you got to those last few innings. Put it this way. Let's juxtapose these two games. Game 1 and game 2. The feeling that you had, and I know I'm asking a lot about vibes and feeling right now, but you were there, so I have to rely on you. The feelings about like the 9th inning in game 1 compared to the 9th inning in game 2. Like what was the difference was there a difference? Was there another, before you answer, was there this, oh my goodness, if this doesn't work out, our season is probably over because we're down 2-0. Where before, if you lose, all right, we got game 2 to go to. All right, I've talked way too much. What do you got?
So the difference in game 1 was that in the 9th inning, the game was tied.
Yeah.
So, you're not feeling like there's less anxiousness there. You have the lead in game 2 in the 9th inning, so there's an anxiousness there. So the thing I would say that there is nerves on both sides, but the nerves come from different places. So as we go into the playoffs, my biggest concern for the Mariners was the bullpen. And it was less because the relievers are bad, but the small sample size leading into the playoffs was not particularly good. Edward Bizardo had 3 straight non-clean outings. Andres Munoz gave up 2 walks and a double to the Dodgers in his final appearance of the regular season. Then he struggled in their inter-squad scrimmage, which some people don't care about, but I do at least. Like it's a non-confidence builder going into the playoffs. So like you're just wondering, all right, is Andres Munoz going to come out and walk the leadoff guy, and then all hell has a chance to break loose? That's what you're thinking on Saturday. And he ends up pitching great, and he gives you 2 really, really good innings. And then on Sunday, you're thinking, well, Andres Munoz pitched great yesterday, but he threw 2 innings. Is he gassed coming into today? Does he have enough in the tank to get through this? Have they seen him enough now in the 24 hours prior to maybe get to him? So the nerves are always going to be there for Mariners fans. They were there in the ninth inning both days. They just come from different places.
But it's very well articulated, because I think that you're right. I mean, it's two different situations, but I think that because of all the things that you talked about with Munoz, and also, like, we'll get to the history. I mean, the celebration, the opportunity to celebrate, has science and math would suggest that the opportunities to celebrate hadn't been there in over 20 years. 24, right? 24? 24, yeah. So when you're sitting there all the way up into that last pitch, you're like, oh man, what's this going to be like? What this going to be like? That said, Brady, what was it like? Because a lot of teams don't get that opportunity. Fan bases get that opportunity to breathe the sigh of relief that has been building up for all those years. What was your vibe when it comes to that?
Mariners fans are perpetually waiting for Lucy to pull the football. Like, that is what Mariners fans are conditioned to be. That is what the drought did. That is what the last 24 years have done. And the relief that there was in the ballpark yesterday was just that. It was relief. It was happiness, but it was relief for a handful of things. One, they finally won a home playoff game. Two, they're in the series. Three, they're not going to at least go out without a whimper. I mean, this is the best chance the Mariners have had in 24 years to get to the World Series. And Rob, I think the thing that Mariners fans have to reconcile, and I find myself having to reconcile, is like, the Mariners are in the playoffs so infrequently. There is an element of, okay, I'm just happy to be here. And that is true. But when you start to think beyond that, you think this is set up for them to get to the World Series. And Mariners fans are not conditioned to think that way. But so I find myself having to graduate from I'm just happy to be here, because they get the first round bye, they win the division, they vanquish the Astros, they end up getting a Detroit team who was reeling, who's been on the road for 2 consecutive weeks between the end of the regular season and the playoffs. Oh, by the way, 2 of 3 of the Red Sox, Yankees, and Blue Jays are going to be eliminated before they even have to see one of them. So the opportunity to get to the World Series is very, very real for this team. And I think Mariners fans are uncomfortable thinking about that, because you're not conditioned to think like that. And I don't blame them.
No, I mean, but it also, it's funny because we're trying to get the vibes of all these teams. The American League, to your point, Brady, like, any team that's in this, they should be disappointed if they don't go to the World Series. Because, oh my goodness, like, all these teams are flawed. And I know the Blue Jays have been taking the Yankees to school, but still, I saw them a week and a half ago. They're a flawed team. But so with that said, it felt like Detroit, the danger for Seattle, I felt with Detroit, was Detroit had almost had this epic collapse. They avoid the epic collapse, and then they win a couple games, and then they win game 1. And now that their story is going to be, we're going to be like the first half Detroit Tigers, and that'll be the great story. And we've seen stories like that unfold. And that was what I was worried about with the Mariners, that they were going to get caught in the Tigers have figured it out all of a sudden. They're not a great team, but still they figured it out all of a sudden. And the Mariners, this team, like to your point, that overcame the Astros, did figure it out. Now they didn't figure it out at the right time. The vibe fork in the road. But now I would say this: as you sit there in the shadows of a auto plant somewhere, I don't know where you are. So in Michigan,
that's not too far off, actually.
Right? Well, I figure it's a pretty good guess. So, but that now that's another thing that win did. I feel like, which is get that narrative of the Tigers are going to go on this run and they can't be stopped because they're the Tigers of the first half. No, you can't discount that Tigers team almost blew a 15, or they did blow a 15.5 game lead. So that's still in there. And you know what else is still in there? How good the Mariners were for that last month or so. I don't know. I'm hyping you up.
And I think the win on Sunday also gave the players that confidence. And I don't think that the Mariners were nervous in game 1. I don't really think they were tight. I don't think that they were affected by the rest versus rust debate. But I think anytime you get positive affirmation, that is ultimately a good thing. So they've shown they can win a playoff game. They've shown they can win at home. They've shown they can beat Scooball. They've now beaten Scooball 3 times organizationally. So it's like the specter of him looming in game 5 shouldn't overwhelm them.
And by the way, any
home.
other alpha pitcher that they will come across now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I know they're out, but like I would have felt the same way like about Crochet. They had beaten him earlier in the year. They had beaten the Yankees when Fried started. So like I think they should have confidence. And I think now as you head to game 3, I would still say the Tigers have the advantage just in the sense that they're home and Scooball allowed them to reset the bullpen. Even though they lost, they reset the bullpen completely. The Mariners bullpen is still going to be gassed going into this game. So I think the Tigers have the advantage, but I don't know that I would necessarily call them the favorite. I think those two things are different. Logan Gilbert obviously has a very, very high upside. He's got one of the highest strikeout rates in baseball this year. His issue has been not being able to go deep into games, but as we've seen for a decade, you don't necessarily have to go deep into games in the playoffs. We would love for him to get 7, but if he pitches into the 6th, I think Dan Wilson would take that as well, and he certainly has the potential and ability and the resume to have the confidence necessary to do it.
Give me the top 3 difference makers for the Mariners. In other words, the 3 guys you feel like they can be. We talk about fork in the roads. If they step up, that can be the biggest, and it could be a role player, it could be a relief pitcher, whatever it is. Who are 3 guys that you say it would be really, really good if they perform?
Julio Rodriguez, which we're already seeing. The team goes as Julio and Cal goes. And the fact that Julio Rodriguez already has 4 hits in this series, he's got a home run, he's got 3 RBIs, he's got a game winner now under his belt, he's performed in the clutch. Like, so much of the narrative about Julio in the first half of the season was that he kind of puts up meaningless stats. That was what the critics would say, that the stats are meaningless, the numbers come in blowouts. Well, here he is now. He's homered in game 1 of the division series to break a scoreless 0-0 tie. He has gotten a game-winning hit, and he plays supreme defense. So they're going to go as he goes. I think the other guy we're seeing right now is Gabe Speier. Like, they're going to need Gabe Speier to continue to be this guy. The Mariners do not have another lefty that they can count on. They have Caleb Ferguson, who they got from the Pirates at the deadline, and he's been exceedingly average. And while we saw him in game 1, we know it's Dan Wilson's preference to not use him in any kind of leverage situation. So Gabe Speier is going to be deployed, and it might be the 5th inning or it might be the 8th inning against that pocket of lefties, but they're going to need him to continue to handle Carpenter and Green and force them to pinch hit for Colt Keith or McKinstry or whatever. So I'll go Julio. I will go Speier. And then they're going to need Brian Wu ultimately if they're going to win the World Series, I think. Now, he's not pitching in this series, so I understand it may not get beyond this potentially, but if they want to do something special and win the World Series, they are going to need Brian Wu to be a part of that. And whether that means he can give them 7 shutout innings in the LCS, or he can give them 2 meaningful innings as a bridge guy in the bullpen, they're going to need him at some point. It is hard to win when you lose your ace. Teams have done it historically. I'm sure someone can point to somebody that won without their ace, but you can't lose your ace at the end of the year, be cut off from the knees, and just be okay. They're going to need Brian Wu at some point.
I mean, in case people don't know, I mean, this is one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. I mean, this is top 5 Cy Young guy. I mean, I have a vote that may or may not be an educated guess, but that's when you look into the numbers. He actually, it was bizarre when I did look into those numbers. Him and DeGrom were like almost identical. It was kind of crazy. Wow. But I mean, no one cares about that. But I want to ask you. By the way, those are 3 really good names. Excellent job by you.
Thank you.
We the aforementioned friend of the program, Jerry Dipoto. So, people ride the wave with Jerry, have for the last few years. When you don't make the playoffs, and you don't get to where you want to go, you can make all the moves that you want. You're going to get criticized. Obviously, he was super aggressive at the deadline, as he usually is. And then now you've landed at this place where it's a pretty good place. But I want to get your perspective, and I say your perspective, but also how you feel the fans' perspective is when it comes to Jerry and what he did this year, building this team, Just the perspective of Jerry.
So Jerry gets a lot of grief. Some of it is justified, and it's more on the public commentary side of things, right? Like people, and not me in general, but people in general grew tired of Jerry. He would go on the radio. He would say the team didn't have any holes, and then we would all see that there would be holes. He makes the comment a couple of years ago after 23 about, I'm doing you a favor by not going all in, and we're trying to win 54% of our games. And like, it makes sense if you really think about it, but the average fan doesn't want to hear that you're only trying to win 54% of the time. So fans are tired, or fans get upset with Jerry and kind of what he says publicly. I think we all recognize that ownership has a huge hand in what Jerry can and cannot do. So I think ownership draws ire from fans, and I think it's justified in a lot of cases. Like, Jerry knows that Juan Soto was a good player. Jerry knows that Juan Soto would help the Mariners. Jerry is not allowed to go after Juan Soto. So he's had to shop the bargain basement and hope that you get these, kind of prolific seasons from those guys. And it hasn't happened so far, right? Like, it didn't work with Colton Wong or with AJ Pollock or Tommy La Stella. You know who it did work with this year is Jorge Polanco.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when Jorge Polanco comes back and goes 265 with 26 and 78 and carries you through April, Jerry looks like a genius. So look, the kind of supplementary moves have worked out for the Mariners better than they have in years past. They've gotten kind of the reclamation project guy there, the bounce back from injury guy. Gabe Speier was injured a lot of last year, and this year he makes 75 appearances. So at the deadline, Jerry's getting a lot of credit, and he should, for going out and getting Naylor and going out and getting Gino, even though Suarez hasn't been particularly good with the Mariners. It was still the right move to make at the right time. And I think the frustration is that, hey, the Mariners took on money at the deadline. That's great. Well, why didn't they spend the money in the offseason? And maybe they wouldn't have needed to do that at the deadline. Like, that's always been my frustration, right? Like, this team went out and got Gino at the deadline, and that's great. They could have gone out and gotten Bregman in the offseason, and maybe they're not sweating out the deadline like they were, but they haven't had the freedom to be able to do that. So I think Jerry gets too much grief in general. I think he's creative given the constraints that he has. I think they draft and develop well. And I just think my last message on that is one of two things has to be true. Either Jerry Dipoto built a better team than you think, or Dan Wilson is a better manager than you think. Fans like to complain about both of them, and I don't think both of them can be at fault here. One of them is doing a very good job if you think the other is lacking.
Okay, who do you think? Who do you think is more responsible for this? It's a tough one.
Question. It is.
I mean, this is a question that I think every franchise, good or bad, is asked. Who is either to blame more, the GM or the manager, or who should get more credit, the GM or the manager?
I think that Dan is better than he gets credit for. And he took a lot of grief on Saturday night, and I don't think most of it was justified. But I think Dan Wilson is better than he gets credit for. Like, the more I've done this daily, the less emotional I've gotten about the pitching change or the pinch hitter or whatever. And I'm starting to look at the big picture more. Dan Wilson is a good clubhouse control guy. He's a former player. The guys respect that. He's a former Mariner. It means something to him. You can tell that, and that translates to the team. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Cal Raleigh loves Dan and Cal Raleigh's having a great year. And I'm not saying that Dan tweaked his swing to the point where he can hit 60 home runs, but the fact that Cal Raleigh right now at this point, the most important player for the franchise, loves the manager, I think that counts for something, right? When we talk about kind of a top-down agreement, you're in New England, right? Brady and Belichick, why did they work for so long, right?
Yeah.
Like, because,
well, I should have classified. I should have actually phrased this TM as the Brady Belichick conversation.
I mean, it is because like Brady and Belichick were so alike for so long that kind of the rest just falls in line. Well, the fact that Cal and Dan like each other is a really good thing. And the fact that Cal signed a deal clearly to show he believes in what Jerry and Justin Hollander are building, that matters too. And I think that filters down. So I think they both deserve more credit, but I do tend to be more impressed by Dan just because it's his first full year doing this.
Are they here if they don't make the Gino and the Naylor moves?
I don't think they're here if they don't get Naylor. I don't think that Suarez has been that impactful. Now, his clubhouse vibe, his personality, I think that matters too, and it's something you can't put on the stat sheet. But Naylor has been a true difference maker in a lot of different ways, right? The edge that he plays with, the kind of soft-spoken clubhouse leadership that he has. Look, he stole 18 bases as one of the slowest runners in baseball. He stole 18 bases with just the Mariners. He had 9 home runs with the Mariners. He had the hit that won them the division, the bases clearing double against Colorado. His defense has been excellent. Now, he made a brutal error on Sunday in the 8th inning of the ALDS, but generally his defense has been excellent as well. So, and they really did need a first baseman. They had no options at first base. So Naylor was an absolute home run. Gino certainly provides a lot of stuff, but it hasn't been as prevalent on the stat sheet.
So how do you feel? How do you feel going into Game 3? I mean, this is one of the things where we talk about the American League, and I remember, I was in New York with the Red Sox and Yankees, and people ask, how do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea. And Phillies, Dodgers, I have no idea. You could keep going down the list. Probably Blue Jays, Yankees now. As much as the Blue Jays have whipped them, still, I have no idea. So do you have an idea?
I think the Tigers, like I said, have the advantage. I think it's right to be nervous if you're a Mariners fan. And as we speak right now, we don't know what's going to happen with Naylor. He did not make the trip to Detroit. His wife is slated to have their first child. He had said he was going to leave. We don't know if the baby has been born yet at this point, but he is not in Detroit. So I have no idea if he will get here in time for what is an afternoon game start in Game 3. That's a big piece of their lineup to potentially not be here. It causes all kinds of issues lineup-wise if he's not here, because if they play Luke Raley at first, he hit 204 this year, and he's not regarded as a good defender. If they move Gino over to first, he's got 6 innings of first base work in his entire career, which spans more than a decade. That is suboptimal. They can add Miles Mastroboni to the roster and put Naylor on the paternity list, but Miles Mastroboni is a good depth piece, but he's not a guy you think of as a starting first baseman. He's spent his whole career as a middle infielder and is just kind of picking up first base at the end of the season. So I think the Tigers have the advantage. The Naylor thing is certainly a storyline to watch in Game 3. I think Logan Gilbert has the ability to counteract all of that, but I would still, kind of in my own Mariners fan way, think the Tigers have the edge right now.
Okay. What do you want to do in Detroit? I mean, let's get down to brass tack. This is one of the great things about traveling around the globe, the postseason, right? You got this beautiful hotel room. They're putting slippers next to your bed, I'm sure, every time they turn it over the room. What do you want to? It's an early game, so you're gonna have. I don't know. You have to go out. But what do you want to do? Tour the Ford plant or what? What?
I want to drive by the sign that says 8 Mile Road.
8 Mile.
That's what I want to do. I just want to drive by the sign. I want to see it on the road, 8 Mile Road, and I want to be able to take the picture of it as I'm moving. That's what I would like to say I saw it.
See?
I've never been to Detroit or Michigan before.
No,
so
I know.
I don't have a tourist bucket list, but that would be one that I would find cool.
I almost said something stupid. I almost said who has. But but this is the point. Is that, when we go to say the check off boxes to, I want to go here, I want to go there. It's not a bad ballpark. It's not. I remember covering the ALCS there and the lights went out and it was in the middle of the game. I was like, oh yeah, Danny Ocean. Because I said Danny Ocean made him do it, because the sneaky thing about Detroit, which you're going to find out, there's casinos everywhere. There's everywhere. Now, I don't know if it's a good thing. It's they're everywhere. You can't. They basically tried to do the revitalization of the city through casinos. I don't know necessarily if it worked, but if you want a casino, this is your place.
All right, that's good to know. It's I don't know if you're a fan. I used to be a fan of the show Entourage, was on HBO.
Yeah.
So whenever I go to Citi Field, I always enjoy seeing the Queens Boulevard sign, because that's a very in the know Entourage line. So I'm into road signs, I guess, which is why the 8 Mile thing is the first thing that came to me. Because if it can be Queens Boulevard when I go to Citi Field, 8 Mile Road. When
I mean, if you don't have a refuse to lose road sign, like made up immediately, let's go.
do
I
you-
mean, come
can
on.
I don't want to tell the story, but I'm going to tell the story.
Yeah.
My neighbor, when I was growing up, somehow had a Albany, New York road sign, like an actual sign from the highway, and I bought it at a garage sale for $10. I took it to college as decoration, and university police came through just doing a random check one day and saw this thing and like tried to get me in trouble for stealing it off the
Really?
highway myself.
Really?
Yes, I didn't know when I got this thing that you're apparently not supposed to have real legitimate road signs.
Well, listen, if when people ask the question, when you go out after the game and you're mingling with all the other writers there and all the other people, and the obvious question comes out, "Hey, have you ever get in trouble with the law?" So yeah, I got a great story for you. Here it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
The SUNY Oswego campus police thought that I jacked the Albany, New York road sign off of Interstate 90, when in reality, my neighbor was the I don't know how they got it, but I evidently got it for $10 at one point.
See, when we do the 30 for 30 on A, the Mariners, and B, Brady Farkas, those are going to be in there.
There you go.
Hey, man, I really appreciate it. It's always good talking with you, and I love this. And you know, I'm sure I'll see you. I actually, you know, I think that the Mariners are going to play the Blue Jays. That's what I think. And I think it'll be a very, very exhausting series because of the travel.
Yes, it will.
Well, Detroit's not that far off from Toronto, honestly. So, but I do think that if it gets to that point, that you would probably have the two best teams in the American League. Like I think I'm not positive about that, and I'm not saying that because they would be in it. I'm saying that like because they've checked off enough boxes where I'm like, okay, they're good. So yeah,
From
I'm
your
going on a
lips to
limb.
God's ears.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Rob, appreciate you. Thank you.